Switching gears right now, though, on Sleepless with Steve, joining me now, Joe Viso. Joe, we are going to talk about right now how 2017 record-breaking numbers for the horror genre. Very cool to see this. It's been a big year. We hinted about this last hour when we talked about the weak October box office, but it has not been a weak year for horror movies whatsoever.
No, not at all.
Yeah, it's been big. I don't know if
Two big ones really carried them.
I know you've been taking a lot of notes. We're hastily preparing for this. Glad to see that. If you want to walk us through kind of, because I've been talking a little bit leading today, if you want to give us a little bit of a walkthrough of what's happened in the past couple years and other big years where horror movies have grossed a lot of money.
Well, yeah, sure. I mean, like with the 73 you had The Exorcist, and 87 you had Nightmare on Elm Street, but the last two biggest ones were 99. The biggest one that came out that year, of course, is the Blair Witch Project, which, had a great marketing campaign behind it that got a lot of people to run out and go see this movie. And, I think it is like one of the first few found footage horror movies. There might have been something before it, but this was like one of the first big ones.
August Underground might have came before it, but this was the first theatrical movie.
Yeah, like this is like one of the first few big ones that got like pushed out like as much as it did with the marketing behind it. And then in 2000, by the way, 1999, 574.6 million is what like a gross as horror movies altogether.
All this information is coming from the New York Times article. Another great job. I know. Sorry to interrupt you. I have to say.
No, go ahead.
Another great job by the New York Times. Mikado
No,
Murphy.
yeah, it really is.
Mikado Murphy wrote this article. Great work. I mean, I love the New York Times. They got great film coverage. Check this article out about the top horror movies at the box office.
And then the other year was the year 2000. With 617.7 million, and the biggest movie that year was actually two movies, but they both deal with the same thing. You had the 2000 year. You began with Scream. The first, we were talking about that with our Halloween show. That was like I think that was my number one. Yeah, my number one favorite movie to watch around Halloween. But then you had the parody, I believe, which came out the same year, Scary Movie, which helped drag in a lot of other people, which, believe it or not, it still qualifies as a horror movie, even though it's more of a comedy. And like those two films together just brought in a ton of box office, and they both featured Ghostface.
Yeah, and then you had a couple that year too. You had a Friday the 13th reboot. You had another sequel to Halloween as well. So you had a lot of stuff that came out that year too that really helped elevate the horror genre. But this year is even a bigger one for the books.
Oh yeah, this year 2017, and of course you probably know what the two big players are. 733.5 million. The two biggest players, Get Out and It, were the two biggest players. And even the article mentions stuff like Split and Happy Death Day help add to that as well. But Get Out and It were definitely the biggest players here.
Definitely. And Split made a lot of money too. And like I said, Happy Death Day and whatnot, that's been coming out, or that's been out. That's still kind of making the rounds. You also had a little bit of I know you don't like to talk about it that much, but you had Bye Bye Man, you had Rings.
No, yeah,
you had all these other things that factored in that really. It's movies like It that make the box office soar, but these other ones spot it out and really even it out.
During the break, I was writing a list just for fun to see how many horror movies came out, and I did them by sections, early at the beginning of the year, summer, and then fall. Yeah, and I was just looking at all of them and just seeing how many actually did well at the box office.
Wish Upon
I put down there did really good. It Comes at Night, 47 Meters Down, Annabelle 2, Belko Experiment.
47 Meters Down was actually a movie too that was supposed to go right to video on demand, but because that movie The Shallows did so well last year, they decided to throw it out, take a risk on it, and it paid off in the box office sense. It really did.
Yeah, and then we had Rings at the beginning of the year, and then for fall I put It, Mother, Friend Request, which is what you reviewed. Yeah, that's Flatliners, which is something we both skip, but I don't think we're missing anything.
I would say that's a little bit more even action, but that has horror undertones. It's not. I wouldn't totally lump it in here, but it definitely has some. But obviously this year's the big player.
Yeah,
and I remember talking.
And there's only one more. Sorry to interrupt, but there's only one more horror movie. Two if you want to count this one, but the one definite horror movie is Polaroid. Where you take a photo and something happens to the people inside the photo.
That comes out over Thanksgiving, yes.
Yep, and then if you want to count this one, you could. It does have horror elements, but Shape of Water, I believe, might have some horror elements to it.
Maybe I would say that.
Knowing Guillermo del Toro.
That's the thing. I wouldn't say it's too far removed, but I wouldn't say it's
just going over seeing how many horror movies came out. It's just wow, there were a ton, and then just seeing how many of them actually did very well at the box office. It's yeah, it does make sense how much money it actually grossed this year for horror movies altogether.
Yeah, and it was surprising for me as well, and I remember mentioning this to you and Gianna too on when we talked about Happy Death Day. Would you agree now too that like there's been an emphasis on the quality and like even acting when it comes to horror movies? Because we spent a lot of Happy Death Day talking about how good the performances were.
Definitely that with Happy Death Day, Get Out, and that. I mean, even I eventually did go see Annabelle 2, and I would say the younger kid actors in that movie, they were very well done. They did a great job. Split with James McAvoy, like, you know, his performance had to help carry that movie.
Yeah, you always joke, and you're always going to get movies like
It Comes at Night. Was another one.
Another great one, which I love that nobody saw. I talked a lot about that on the show. But like the problem is though, is like you got a lot of movies, a lot of people that think it's because of years of just conditioning and years of like underwhelming performances as well. Is that people just think horror is such a throwaway genre for performances and whatnot. But this year,
with the way this year turned out, I don't think so anymore.
With this year, I would not be surprised if they start really paying attention to the casting in horror movies. And you're always going to have like here, I love it. I defend the hell out of it. Wish Upon. It's not an amazingly acted movie, but like same with Bye Bye Man. But like at the same time though, you know, you're always going to have those movies. You're always going to have that genre. Whereas if you have something like Split or Get Out, it relies on the performances. Too. I mean, you needed the talented kid actors.
Yeah, a big part of that, you know, story is like relating to those kids and caring about them, honestly. Like if those kid actors weren't as good as they were, that film would not be as held.
Not at all. So I mean, it's a big year for horror movies too. Like I said, the final total so far comes out to $733.5 million.
And it's definitely gonna go up with Polaroid, probably.
Yeah,
not by much, but it's definitely gonna go up.
Not by much, but it'll go up. I mean, because Polaroid was supposed to come out in August. It was supposed to come out in August.
Really?
It was, which would have been better. I mean,
that's true.
A horror movie over the holiday, I don't think it's going to do anything, especially when you're coming up against other stuff that I don't think it's going to do much.
With the big blockbusters. I'm thinking like
I don't think it's going to do
$30
much.
million at the max.
I would even say that's being optimistic.
Really?
I would say probably I would say 15, 20. I mean, I would say by that judgment.
I'm not saying like opening. Of course, I'm saying like total gross by the end.
Me too.
Okay.
I'm saying total gross. I would say 15 to 20.
Okay.
I would lowball it pretty significantly, but it's still been a really good, interesting year. I think you're really going to see too, and don't be surprised. And I think the Oscars would do well for this too. Don't be surprised if you see Get Out's name pop up on the Oscar nominations.
I wouldn't be surprised at all. Even like it can definitely get some Oscar nods for some things. Maybe not like best picture or maybe best screen adaptation, maybe.
I would even say maybe costumes or something.
I was gonna say costume and makeup definitely can go to something because Pennywise's costume and makeup was very well done.
And I think it's well deserved too. And I mean, there's so much. There's a cry, and this is a whole different topic, but there's a cry for legitimacy that comes with horror movies too, because I know there's one of the biggest debates in the cinephile community is Silence of the Lambs a horror movie? Because a lot of people think that like once a horror movie gets like high praise and Oscar nominations, it like immediately
transcends the horror genre.
It can't be a horror movie then. Which, you know, is totally ridiculous. Silence of the Lambs is a horror movie. If you want my opinion, that's a total that's a total horror movie. But like
Hannibal Lecter is considered a horror movie character, guys.
Wisely so. But it's been a great month. It's been a great year for that matter, and it's been a quality year. It's not only that these movies are making a ton of money, but it's these movies are good, and these movies deserve to be seen. If the year ended tomorrow, it's one of my favorite movies of the year.